Our Max panniers include all features within the price. You don't end up paying extra for locks and handles. There are no hidden costs. Metal Mule. Engineered to be different. Proud sponsors of the bike reviews on Adventure Bike TV.
Right, so for the bike review, we've come to our old friends at M&P, and quite excitingly for me, they've just opened a KTM dealership. But that's not why we're here. We're here for a Kawasaki. We're here for the Versys 650. So before we take this bike out for a spin, let's have a cup of coffee and talk about what it is, and in some ways, more importantly, what it isn't. Because it's not a great big CC'd engine bike. It's not a dual sport bike, so you're never going to be able to take it and do the serious off-roading. But for this kind of bike, this kind of middle-level money, middle-level spec, middle-level power, what kind of things actually are important, and what probably you're going to be looking for? Well, it's got to be a bike that's going to be comfortable. It's going to be a bike that's got to have enough speed, but not too much. It's got to be a bike that's going to handle reasonably well. It's got to be a bike that when you come outside and look at it, it's going to make you smile. It's got to be a bike that's got to be a little bit sexy. But of course, the most important thing is to get this bike out of the tarmac, so we're going to take it out for a spin into the wilds of the Gower Peninsula. Now, I do not normally like to quote from Wikipedia, but indulge me this once as it helps me to make a point. Wikipedia says about the Versys, it borrows design elements from dual sport bikes, standards, adventure tourers and sports bikes, sharing characteristics of all, but not neatly fitting into any of those categories. That's obviously how they speak on Wikipedia. Now, I disagree with their conclusion entirely. Whilst I acknowledge what they're saying about the design cues, I believe this is very clearly an adventure touring bike. It fits exactly into that category. So take that, Wikipedia, stick it in your pipe and smoke it. Earlier, I said that if you were looking in this price and engine size range, then you'd probably not be looking for something too fast. And this 650 definitely isn't too fast. But the Versys is no slouch though. It's got a thoroughly respectable 68 horsepower, which is up 5 horsepower on the old model, but that's kind of outweighed by the additional 8 kilos it's carrying due to its heavier new wheels, fairing and sturdier subframe. Why a sturdier subframe, I hear you shout? Well, to take the new accessory panniers and top box fitting system, of course, duh. Despite the extra weight kind of offsetting the additional horsepower, it's still packed with enough low down and mid-range grunt, but in all honesty you'd be really hard pushed to notice the extra oomph over the old model. Or so I've been told, because I've not actually ridden the old model, but I am reliably informed that what you do notice is the lack of vibes from this new motor. Apparently they used to give your nerves a really good tingle up, but not so much these days. thanks to the new front rubber engine mounts. On a bike in this price range, the KYB rear shock with remote preload adjuster is more than a surprise. Combine it with a show of forks and the handling makes this machine a bit of a hoot, especially when you find a relatively quiet roundabout and keep on going round and round and round. And those pedal-shaped 300mm brake discs will stop you perfectly well. The rear shock and the pulling power will be great for passenger carrying, and this bike actually feels bigger than a 650. The tall manually adjustable screen, the bigger 21 litre tank and a reported 50 miles per gallon plus efficiency would make it a great adventure tourer. Kawasaki says that the Versys exceeds the sum of its parts. It's a sports partner, a city friend and a mountain road conqueror. Well, take note Kawasaki, add adventure tourer to that and you'd have the Versys 650 nailed. Okay, so I've been out riding the bike for most of the day and what do I think? Well, I said right at the start of the review that it's no good trying to compare this bike to those that position themselves as more focused adventure machines. It's just, you won't get anywhere with that comparison. But I did set out some criteria by which we should have a look at it. And first of those was comfort. Now, the only way I can describe the way you sit on this bike is it's like having a big pair of soft hands with thick gloves cupping your buttocks. Maybe that's wrong, I don't know. But anyway, it does feel really nice when you're sat on it. Handling. Now, I am no racer, but this bike inspired a lot of confidence for me, and I was really enjoying myself around some of those corners, and particularly around the roundabouts. Speed. Now, that's a tricky one, because this bike is not particularly fast, but I actually think that's a good thing, because if you were a new rider, just pass your test, you don't want something that's going to be too fast, and this bike absolutely hits the nail on the head. And the last one was looks. Does it make you smile? Now, I think this bike's really cheeky looking, and the front still reminds me of Toothless from How to Train Your Dragon, and it would make me smile every time I walk out to have a look at it. The question, of course, is would I have one of these in my garage? I'll go back to my previous point. If I just passed my test and I wanted a bike with a bit of a cheeky personality that would get me around and I'd love riding it, I'm pretty sure I would.
Our panniers have a double thick rim at the base, keeping damage from the inevitable bumps, scrapes and offs to the outside of the pannier. Metal Mule. Engineered to be different. Proud sponsors of the bike reviews on Adventure Bike TV.